it looks like the players are ready right now, so let's cut to them and let's get underway with Game 5.
So it looks like Jackson is first.
Yep, and he is holding all consonants. Josh, I assume you'd probably exchange here, but the question is, what exchange?
I think actually the one Jackson has right now is the one that's looking the best for me. He already has Thistle aligned for next turn. Let's see what César comes up with.
Yeah, so César has kind of a weird group of letters. Normally, you don't want to break up that Q and U just because alone, neither tile's great, and together they are pretty good. But his best option, aside from if he didn't want to play those tiles, I think had to be exchanging. So instead, he breaks off his Q with his U and plays VUM. I think this looks like the right play to me. It keeps an O for OVUM as a possibility. Would you do this, Josh?
I would hate it. I would hate it. I mean, you really want to keep that QU. If you're going to keep that Q, I might just exchange all the way down to the Z before doing that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really don't like that. But who knows? This is a position where the AI machine, the engine comes in handy. I couldn't think of the word engine. This is a position where Quackle comes in handy. It can really give you the averages of what you might want to expect after your plays.
Yeah, I would lean towards VUM here, just because you have an O2. If you have a Z, right, you're creeping a Z, so that could score a bit. And yeah, that's what I would lean towards. But César goes with Josh's kind of thinking and goes with the exchange, and that gives Jackson an easy bingo to start off the game after 2 consecutive exchanges. So it's a great start for Jackson. We'll see how César responds. He picked up some good tiles, so do you see any bingos right away? Or no?
I don't. But I might be wrong. I've been wrong before.
Yeah, I don't either. So Zaz is immediately jumping out to me as a possibility through the S in Thistles. He could also play Zeram, which it looks like he is lining up now. Both seem like pretty good options. Would you go with one of those two, Josh, or something else?
I like Nizam, Zeram, Mirza. I think Mirza is better because it doesn't put that A right above that triple letter score. XI could go there and a host of other very nice scoring plays. So I would do the anagram of Zeram Mirza to not create that big spot, but it's definitely close.
Yeah, that's a good point. And he hasn't played it yet, so he might be thinking about something like Mirza now. One other thing Mirza does over Zeram is the S in Thistles could make an 8-letter word ending in S, but Zeram, the Z only takes an A after it as a 2-letter word, whereas the M takes all of the vowels after it. So it definitely, if César is looking for bingos, Mirza could also be better in that way too. But he elects for Zeram, still a really good play, and there's a lot of game left, so he doesn't want to spend too much time with it. And that leaves Jackson now with a clunky group of letters, but also a 40-point lead. So I would take that most of the time.
Definitely. Yeah. There's not much to do here other than I think Pirog, Pirog, and PE, because that not only sets up the QI for next turn on the I. So the E in Thistle, if you play down there, that I will be right next to the triple letter score. So you might be able to get your QI down for 31 next turn. Or if you draw an I as well, you can play Pirogi and QI. So that's the play I'd be leaning towards right now. I'd also like to mention a very quick segue here that I calculated, and Jackson is actually up 17 points of spread.
Wow.
So because of that, if this game is tied, which is a very, very, very unlikely scenario, I think 1 in 200 games or something are tied, something like that. If that does happen, Jackson will actually still come out with the win. So I mean, we were saying that the spread differential doesn't matter, but if in the last game César played a little bit better in the end game, it's possible that if this game ties, then it would have made all the difference. But it's obviously just grasping at straws. Very, very unlikely here. So he plays Gorp, which is it's a good idea.
Yes.
I didn't really
César
see that.
responds with Joanne's. He also had Jackanets, it looks like, through the T or either T in Thistle, but especially the top T. I'm actually not sure which scores more, but I'm assuming he just played the one that was higher scoring of those two.
I think Joanne's must score more. It triples the J and hooks Thistle. 92 points. Jackanets looks like a nice 82 with my quick maths. Yeah, so that's a really cool word. Joanne's is also good. Johannes. It's a coin. It's a Portuguese coin. It does not lose the S. It's one of those words that needs the S to be a valid word. There's no Joanne or Johan. I think I once played Joanna or Johanna. I wonder if Zev Kaufman, if he's still in the chat, if he remembers, but I played it against him. I seem to remember getting away with a phony. Just like that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So Jackson just played Sync, which is the newest, I think, without U word, or one of the newest. I guess Kayak might be even newer, but really key word that's kind of changed Scrabble the past few years, and a really good play there. César has some good tiles though post bingo draw. And it's a great thing for him because Jackson has a very small lead, and if he was slowed down by bad letters, Jackson could really do some damage. But we're in a neck-and-neck game right now.
This is what we wanted.
Yeah, so I saw Harry off of Zaram and Gorp making Hag and Emo as a possibility, but Quackle points out Helitry, which is a really nice word, through the O in Johannes. I would probably prefer Harry just because Helitry does make a lot of easy bingo lanes, and César might interpret after Sync and Gorp that Jackson's probably starting to groom his rack towards something. But what would you do here, Josh?
I kind of agree with that sentiment. The third suggested play is really cool. It's Motherly. That's probably not the best play. However, it's a really cool fit. The reason that it's not as good is it doesn't score as much, and it creates an easy spot to play. You can see the H in Motherly would be right next to that triple word score. But he plays Helitry, which I don't blame him for. I do understand the idea of not opening any bingo lanes, but hey, maybe it'll work out for César. It looks like Jackson's very quickly finding inertiae, which is a very useful word in Scrabble if you have too many vowels. It's not going to score that much, but it's a bingo. Bingo's a bingo, and Jackson's going to take a small lead here.
Yeah, I mean, if you put any of those tiles on the board without a bonus, like inertia that you get for inertia, I don't think you can even find that many points. So he'll take it gladly, and that gives him a slight lead. And he also picks up the X, which could be a nice tile coming up on this board. Meanwhile, it looks like César is plopping down Verb. I thought was
verbs. Yeah, verbs. Definitely verbs here. The S is the second best tile in Scrabble, behind the blank. Estimations that were made in all of these in the computer age of Scrabble seem to estimate the value of S between 10 points and 15 points. And that's not the tile value, that's what the tile is, quote unquote, worth on average. So if you're ever playing a game and you're wondering if you should put an S onto a word, if it scores less than 10 points more, then it's hard to say that, but verbs will score 18 more points than verb, so it's definitely better to play verbs here.
Yeah, although it definitely is hard to get rid of that S a lot of the time, especially on certain boards. Some boards, the S can be really unvaluable, where there's no kind of pluralization opportunities or anything like that. Sometimes, especially if there are kind of two S's left in the game and you're holding one of them, it feels really weird to even take those 10 extra points for the S, just because your opponent has the only S in the game and could do some sort of crazy setup you can't block. So it is sometimes hard to part away with the S, but I think here César makes the right move, plays it, scores a bunch of points, and takes a 15-point lead.
In the chat, Annette asks if Gorp does take the S. It does take the S. So that is obviously something to consider if you want to keep the S for the hook on Gorps. But I think in this position, not only the extra points in this close game, but also leaving fewer consonants on your rack is a big consideration. So I really like the play of verbs. And Jackson's going to come right back with at least a 40-point play here, I think.
Yeah, so he has fax as an option directly below the first 3 letters in inertia. That definitely scores a lot. I'm wondering if he has any setup opportunities here, just because he does have some high point tiles that could kind of disguise a big X play. He could do something like that.
As we see, the fifth suggestion is Fumet, Fumet. That will play on top of inertia, making MIEN and TE, and that will actually set up mix for the next turn if Jackson really wants to do that. And Jackson is definitely fond of setting up his high point letters. And we're running a simulation here because it's actually quite interesting. If Jackson were to play fax for 47, that would give back tons and tons of scoring opportunities for César, whereas now it's actually not that easy to play on top of foe. Unless you have the tile that Jackson keeps, which is the M. And so that's why these players are so good. Jackson notices that it's likely he'll be able to play there next turn. If not, César will play there, but for not that many points. We're seeing Nard scores 30 points. So a great play by Jackson, not setting his X up, but setting his M up.
Yeah, exactly. It's an even cooler idea here. You could score now and potentially give your M a lot more value on the board. It's just hats off to Jackson. Really, really great Scrabble play. So what could César be thinking aside from Nard here, which he already laid down once?
Well, he did have God darn aligned on his rack, which is a little funny tidbit there. That's not a word, but it could very well be one.
Yeah, or if you're an Office fan, Andy Bernard's nickname was the Nard Dog, so he could have that, but unfortunately that's also not a word in Scrabble. Yeah,
that's hilarious. Yeah. Wow, what a reference. I think now that's the number one joke on the stream, Morris. I think you really took it. I mean, come on, like, how do you come up with a reference like that? That's amazing. Any Office fans out there? I'm sure there are.
Yeah, well, we got some Nard Dog comments in the chat, or at least one. So maybe Carter's an Office fan, but so one other option that Sean Abbasi points out is Dragon. I assume where César is playing God right now. That's definitely a good idea too, and it looks like he's right now looking at that.
César we might have some fireworks after this play. That really opens a lot of stuff up. That's really cool.
Actually, though, César probably could be thinking about what is Jackson holding after foe, just because he did not play fax directly below inertia. So Jackson probably likelier to be holding the M than normal in those situations. But Dragon is just a really nice play equity-wise. I don't blame him, but it is a cool thing to think about how likely it is for Jackson to be setting up his M on that turn.
Right, and if César did think that Jackson is setting himself up, Nard would probably be his first choice, but he's probably not 100% sure of that. So why not create even more spots to go in the next turn or two to counteract the possibility of that spot? So I really like the idea behind Dragon, and MAUT definitely the right play here. It gets rid of the U and also scores the maximum amount of points. So great play for Jackson. He scored 80 points in 2 turns, which is just as good as 1 bingo and 1 fishing play. So we'll see how César responds here. He has Void and Gid. I think that's the obvious play that comes to mind. Is there anything else you see?
Well, he had Dove set up. I'm guessing he would have done that above the O and the N in Dragon, but that does score a bit less, and the E is a better tile to keep than the I. So it looks like now he is going towards Void, which is appropriate because in Scrabble, Void
I knew
just
you'd
means
go there.
a type of game that there's no challenge penalties. You just don't accept any phonies, and so Scrabble Go is a void Scrabble game. No phonies are allowed. We are avoiding any possibility for that. So he might go with void, which is a good idea. Video could also be a possibility.
In the same spot. In the same spot, it plays with GIE and ONO.
This is a neck and neck game, and those are the kinds of things that can just slow you down enough. Meanwhile, Jackson is playing off both his E's. I'm guessing because he sees the amount of E's unseen to him. He doesn't know that César has 3 of those, but it does score a lot, and he had a really good draw for him. So he looks really close to a bingo.
Nice find by César. I wanted to ask you, how is it possible for Jackson to see the E's unseen to him?
Yeah, fair enough. Good point. So is peopling should be a word, right? Through the P in Corp.
That's a great find, yeah.
So peopling could come down
really
next turn.
Really huge for Jackson. Oh my god.
If he sees it. I'm actually, are there other bingos here? Feel free to point out more in the chat. That's just the one I saw.
Reposing. Sorry. Everybody else, go ahead. I mean...
Yeah, aside from the 2 we already pointed out, if they're the only 2, we're sorry. Feel free to suggest away in the chat.
I mean, we should obviously fill the silence anyway, Morris, but... Yes,
that's fair.
So Deviled was a really cool find. I think that's probably the best play César has here. He's they're neck and neck here, but after Jackson's next play, César is going to be really on his back foot. We'll have to see what he does. What he draws even.
Yeah, so César takes a 2-point lead, but we should see one of those 2 words come down. I'm guessing Jackson would do reposing if he sees both, just because peopling could give back a big play on the triple, or a much bigger play just because it leaves the double letter score open. Yeah, I would be surprised if he sees both if he'd choose peopling.
Yeah. What else is being suggested? Epigones, which is definitely not as good as either of the 2 plays there, but nice find, Roger. Pigeons doesn't seem to fit. Paragons isn't a word. Yeah. Paragons is a word.
Yeah, Paragons is a word.
He's trying a long pipe. Is that it?
Yeah. I don't even know if that's valid. It's such a no. Okay.
It's the word in peopling, but he's misremembering it, I think.
Got it. Yeah, blowpipe, but not long pipe. So he could even try, if there's a bingo through the E in Thistle, he could try to do something there, just because it'd be harder for César to fork the board in the same way, I'm guessing, but that scores so many fewer points. I think he has to go with one of the 2.
Right, definitely not worth it at this point, I would say. I think reposing, I don't know, 6 points. That's a lot of points to give up when the game is so close. But it is a lot safer. However, one of the things to consider is if you play peopling, it does just basically guarantee someone's going to get a big play to the triple word using the double letter that the P is now reposing on. But that W in EEW is also a factor there. Something could happen from that W anyway, so it might not be worth sacrificing so many points. We'll see if it plays any role, because Jackson just had a pretty bad draw. So it's César's turn, and see he's going to be looking to find something to keep himself in the game here, because he's down by a lot at this point.
Yeah, if we could see the remaining tiles in the bag, this is a really important turn for that. So you can see there are 18 unseen tiles. That means there are 11 tiles in the bag and 7 other tiles on Jackson's rack. We know a lot of those vowels are on Jackson's rack, so he has 2 A's, 2 U's, and an O. But if you're César here, I mean, you need to, one, open a few more lanes in the board. Right now, the only available lane is the W from EEW. And I guess also the S possibility of pluralizing corpse, but he doesn't hold the S right now. So he needs to think of, how can I open a few more lanes, and what kinds of words can I go for here?
Yeah, I mean, there's also the possibility through the N and the G in reposing, but those are all very unlikely
Oh, yeah.
spots. So he's probably going to be thinking, how can I open some more spots for myself? I'm not seeing anything great. He might just opt for scoring because Jackson can't always block everything. But it is going to get really difficult. Jackson's going to play defensively next turn for sure. And we'll see if César manages to draw something miraculous. Maybe it's not miraculous at this point, but it's looking really good for Jackson here.
Yeah, I mean, one play you could even consider here is vow, just down from the V in verbs if you really are unconfident and you're trying to just get the S at all costs. Just because it's really hard for Jackson to block that well without sacrificing a lot of points, and can get rid of some of the clunkier tiles on your rack all at once. But he's going to go for the scoring route, which also seems like a perfectly good option here. It's just trying to figure out, what's my 1 or 2 shots to win here. All of these sort of low probability win moves are really tough to evaluate in certain situations. So Won't seems pretty good, I guess. Is there any other sort of crazy setup he could try doing, Josh?
No, that's the thing. I mean, he could play wit through the I and reposing. That sets up his E. It sets up the for white. It sets up the T for twit. But I think that's too little. I really think that's too little and too easy to block. So I think really that's the best he can do, unless he does something like you considered of vow, which can lose the game on the spot or miraculously pull back into it. So I think I like this decision by César. He really needs to just hope for something. He has, I think, one more turn after this to make something happen. As we see, there's only 7 letters remaining. Jackson's going to play a couple of them, or a few of them, and César's going to play some himself. So, wow, VAU. Are you guys seeing that?
Yeah.
Suggested play. I mean, that's exactly what you said. Like, so prescient, Morris. You said he should play vow, and that's indeed what Jackson should play here. That's not necessarily, but it's a crazy, crazy cool move because he holds the only remaining hook tile to that word, and this turn or next doesn't matter too much. He can. Oh my god,
He's doing it. He's going for vow. Jackson, disgusting, man. How does he find these plays? I mean, the one downside is César knows that Jackson's holding the S at this point with that play.
What can he do about it? He can't really do anything.
Well, it could be just enough if you're trying to figure out if there are like 2 potential ways you have an outside shot of winning, and they're both using the complete other side of the board. If one of those uses the S and one of those doesn't, that gives César key information. So I don't know even if that's true in this case, but that is the one downside I see to this play of vow, is that it could give César key information which you don't want to give him.
He's considering it. He's considering Unao, which is actually a very good idea here as well. It's not so crazy like VAU is. It does block some stuff, does set up his S, and it also just, it really, the best thing about Unao, which is was it a 2 or 3-toed sloth? I really don't care about definitions at this point. I just care about this game. This is really, really crazy. If Jackson played VAU, I mean, César's play is POCK, but after Jackson plays Unao, I don't know if that's the right play for César because all of that space is now gone. So this is coming down to this very, oh my god, he plays it. What a play. Incredible play. Hey, it might not work out. César is going to play POC most likely. I saw a
could
German.
You set up, what hooks are there to purr? I just see César has perk as a possibility. Oh, there's not. Yep, good call. Yep. He didn't have that last turn, but I knew it didn't take the S or any of his other letters last time.
But it's very good ideas thinking about a counter setup in these positions.
Or PEC, actually. PEC could be a possibility.
Yeah, but though he knows that Jackson has the S.
Oh, right. Yeah, in that case. Good call.
But I think Pock is the play. Like there's going to be 2 unseen tiles. And it's really going to come down to what César draws after Pock. I don't think there's any other play to consider here. Just anything. Something from the C he's about to put down on the board. Maybe something with the G and reposing, something through the E and Johannes. Just something that will score enough to outrun Jackson's monster play that he's going to have with VAUS. It's actually not, he doesn't have anything great at this point. He can only play maybe Soya. So I think what Jackson might do after Pock is, since there's going to still be 2 tiles left, he might just drop his Y tile with OY. As we can see, the O is already on the board for Pock, or just YE with the E in Thistles and the E in Johannes, and leave that one more opportunity to score on the next turn and just hope to outscore César's bingo, which basically he has to fear César has. So I think that Pock is really the only play here. Maybe there's a suggestion that Quackle has that we're not considering, but I think it's either Pock or Peck. And I guess it's got to be Pock, I think.
Yeah, with 2 eyes unseen. If there's only 1 eye unseen, I think Per actually is a very reasonable idea there. But yeah, given that there's 2, that's probably just a bit too risky. I don't like this idea of Bach. It just doesn't score enough, I don't think.
Yeah, it seems to block, but really Jackson can just play SOUK. He's just basically giving Jackson an opportunity to score a lot of points, but he's only down 50 points. So that might not be enough. VAUS SOUK, that scores 45 points. That would put Jackson up 75 points. So any bingo that César would have after BOCK and SOUK would win the game.
I guess what letters are left in the bag right now? We should actually try to figure that out.
ABDFIILOSUY. So it's not looking great. But there's still a lot of opportunity with the ENRT leave. But yeah, Bach is a very interesting option. Honestly, I wouldn't count it out of the running, because it doesn't. The thing that Pock does is it blocks the W and EEW, but it creates an even better spot with the C. However, Jackson might not even have to deal with that. Like he could just play off 1 tile. Or he can block the C, because that's definitely going to be the biggest spot after Pock. So it's getting really, really tricky, and César's clock is dwindling. This is come down to the wire, I think. Like, I don't know what to say. This is going to be crazy. Whatever happens.
But I think this is the turn, right? You want to spend an extra minute on this turn. You either have a bingo next turn, you don't, and if you're César, who's a really good player, you will see that bingo almost always. So I don't blame it at all taking a bit of extra time here. There's a lot to consider. He's considering, that's really interesting. If he plays okay, that doesn't score quite as much, but it does leave a really juicy bingo lane for him. It does give Jackson a bit more flexibility to not empty, though, is the issue.
The thing is, if I were Jackson after OK, I would just plop down the I for Poi, POI, and set up his S once again, which would just be like, for César, just be like, oh my god, what am I going to do? But again, it really depends on the score here. César's only down 50 points, so those really cute setups, like the one Jackson just made, might not be enough to outrun. So Pock comes down,
I think, the right play,
and he gets.
Let's see what he draws.
Clarinet.
Oh my god. He has clarinet.
Clarinet. He has
integral.
Does he have?
He's integral and triangle.
Clarinet.
And triangle.
Oh my god. So if Jackson plays OY for 18, blocks clarinet, leaves 1 in the bag, he only takes a 32-point lead with OY. triangle scores 70 points, and I'm thinking that's enough. I'm really thinking that's enough. So this is really going to come down to whether Jackson decides to go all out in blocking as much as he can with something like GUY guy for 14 points. That might be his only path to victory here.
Yeah, could we see the
Wow.
tile pool from Jackson's perspective just to potentially see what he has to be thinking about here? So the 2 tiles in the bag are FB. So César really avoided probably the 2 tiles that are least friendly for bingoing. And Jackson has to be worried, though. I mean, I think there has to be other bingos available, even without those 7. But
A ladder and tree nail, I don't think so. Available with the B and the F. Yeah,
Finagler,
possibly.
right? Isn't Finagler?
Yeah, with the B
Yeah,
and the F. Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah,
So
so I
that's
think
what
you have
Jackson's
to.
going to be doing for the rest of almost the rest of his time. Honestly, is he's going to be trying to anagram all the 9 tiles that remain to see what's being threatened, and if he comes up with something like COYAU or GUY, that's going to block almost everything, maybe everything. I don't even know. Yeah, this is wow. This is really going to come down to this next play. Pac was, I think, definitely the right play for César,
Oh,
and
for sure. Yeah.
he really drew what he wanted. Yeah, I'm really thinking that Jackson's first going to be looking for what's being threatened, and second, going to see how he can deal with that. If he can outrun it with 2 plays, or if he can just block as much as possible and pray that he's not missing anything.
Yeah, and one option he could even do is Unai. He put down Unau last turn, UNAU, but UNAI could definitely be something in the same vein here.
Yeah, from where we're standing, that wins. From where we're standing, Guy wins, Koyo wins, but Jackson does not know. I think DUI and ID and NU and GI, I think that's also a really good bet for Jackson, but he might be looking at the K. Maybe there's a bingo at the K. So whoa. He's considering just playing the O, which blocks both clarinet, triangle, and integral.
And
So,
doesn't empty the bag.
and it saves Saeed for 51 points on the next turn. So that'll be a 2-turn score of 57 points. Probably still not enough.
Oh, but he changed it to no. Integral could still fit there if he does that.
Oh my god. Yeah, let's hope he doesn't doesn't play that, because that would just be a game-losing mistake. I mean, what else is there? I really need to see
I think
what's
NU
possibly
is the same.
unseen.
Is the idea you want to do there if you want to play in that spot with 1 tile. So he's changed it to NU now. Maybe he saw integral as a possibility. But that blocks clarinet, that blocks triangle, that blocks integral.
Can
So
we get
NU,
a simulation here, maybe an Ask Championship player? Is that something we can ask for here, because that's really going to tell us very clearly. So we're in the middle of simulating the position. We're asking Championship player, which is Quackle's endgame. What do you call it? Algorithm. Excuse me.
yeah.
So he has NU down. That would also block, and he plays it before we can even figure out if that's the best play. So he plays NU. He saves Saeed for next turn. He draws the B, which is also useful. And I think this might be it. I think that was the game-winning play. Do you see anything César can do here?
Yeah, so this is a good question. So there's 1 in the bag. From César's perspective, it'd be good to show Quackle just to sort of see how he could approach this. Although a lot of this, like César doesn't have enough time really to think this out, but he could kind of backwards infer based on Jackson's last play what is the likely tile in the bag. I think if you're César, you probably are going to assume something like the F is the last tile. And you need to start thinking about, one, is there a good way to block a vow and score enough points in another turn, next turn? Or two, is there another way to set up bingos? I think he has to be thinking here that he needs to do something that blocks vow if he just doesn't see bingos, just because it's going to be really easy for Jackson to block any one tile setup he makes.
We're seeing that possibly UT for 4 points is being suggested, but I don't actually think that's right. César's time. Thing about Oh wow! So the reason that UT was the best play there, we're hearing from the producers, if he draws the O, he gets both collinear and NUN through that with that C in POC and Alienor or aileron with the spot that UT will create on the 15th rank. So a similar idea of ag with the time dwindling down. It doesn't seem like it's going to work, but he probably had an idea there. And it looks like Jackson's confident that he's going to win now if he plays SYBO. He's just double checking because this is the most important turn of the game. I know we were saying the last turn was important, the turn before that was important, but this time it's really the most important turn of the game. I wonder, Morris, if your mic is off. Because I can't
Is my
hear
mic
you.
off?
Oh, no, I can hear you.
Okay. I think it's on.
So he's just being totally sure here, I think, with body that he's not letting anything slide.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that he isn't doing. I get the logic, but I'm surprised he's not keeping a word that he can use the vows hook. Maybe just body scores more than anything else.
He hasn't made his play yet, but
yeah,
obviously that would. But all he's trying to do here is win. So if he's keeping SAKI and AITS, those are unblockable.
Yeah, so this makes sense. He keeps Soya.
Dib and bag because that keeps Soya and VAUS. But it looks like Jackson's gonna come out with this one in an incredible endgame, pre-endgame. This is why these players are so good. They both give each other chances, the maximum amount of chances to win whenever they can. And César is just gonna have to make a play very quickly. His time is run out, and he's just shrugging. He knows that he's lost the game. But what an incredible showing by both players. Jackson having to win 2 games in a row. César just playing beautifully, beautiful Scrabble by both players.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, these last 4 turns, essentially, those are the kinds of plays that only the best in the world can do. Something like POC. Well, actually, first, vow. What a crazy idea to set up your S like that and give you that much leverage. Then a play like POC to realize you need to score enough and give yourself the opportunity to bingo the next turn. Then a play like New, seeing that César could have bingos through both those spots. All of this is just such crazily good tactical Scrabble. And then when you saw Dib, that was probably Jackson making 100% sure that Flinter isn't a word, because Flinder is a word.
Yeah,
so
Flinder, Flinted, right? Like so many words look like that, and you can't check word. Oh my gosh.
Jackson either shaking hand out of sportsmanship or saying you're gone. I couldn't tell.
Let's consider that it's the former.
Yeah.
Just for for our sake. Amazing match. Oh my god, I'm so glad that I was able to commentate this tonight.